So I've noticed a lot of people commenting on my videos are looking to buy a used coach. Some are starting a bus company and some are converting them to motorhomes. So today I figured I would go over some tips and tricks on what to look for when purchasing a used motor coach. Let's get that intro out of the way so we can get rolling. You guys like that one? I said rolling because they have wheels that roll. Just roll the intro. Hello fellow bus nuts, geeks, and enthusiasts. Welcome to another episode of Motorcoach World. My name is James. So you want to start a bus company? Well, tip number one, don't do it. You'll lose your shirt.
It's a trap!
1,000-year-old booby trap.
So if you watched the one I did on how bus companies make money, was that what I titled it? I think that was. Anyways, I tagged it up here somewhere if you want to watch it. Owning a motor coach and running a bus company is expensive. It's also a very fulfilling and noble business. I mean, come on, the fine people who own and work for motor coach companies get a kick out of hauling large groups of people from point A to point B in comfort. We're not trying to push a product on anyone. We're not trying to enroll you on some plan. We just want to give you a comfortable ride in our beautiful land yachts. Investing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on a used motor coach is a scary thing. I mean, especially if you don't know what to look for. There are plenty of good used coaches out there. You can definitely make a good start on your new bus company or conversion motorhome and get a nice long life out of a used coach bus instead of going $500,000 in debt by buying a brand new one. Oh, and by the way, I have to give credit where credit is due. So I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Rich DeYoung, Vice President at Motorcoach Industries, Corey Rodden, who is our Director of Maintenance for Peoria Charter, John Godsell, who is the Director of Maintenance for the Urbana branch, and Brandon Lewis, who is a diesel technician at the Urbana branch of Peoria Charter, who by the way has yet to encounter anything he couldn't fix. These guys have been such a huge help to me when it comes to giving me advice and info on all the topics I've covered so far. So here are some tips and tricks that you can use when you go searching for your used coach. Just like purchasing a car, you always want to make sure you check the mileage. But when purchasing a used coach bus, the body, or otherwise known as the chassis of the coach, may be on its second engine or transmission. Don't let that scare you though, because a motor coach chassis can have a much longer lifespan in comparison to your personal vehicle. Some are known to have reached up to 2 or 3 million miles and be on its second or third set of engines or transmissions before reaching the end of its life. With that said, the mileage on the engine and transmission may be different than each other, as well as the chassis of the coach. Be sure not to simply rely on the odometer. You'll want to obtain records from the previous owners or the dealers on whether the engine and transmission are the original ones and how many miles are on them. It's going to be more likely that a used coach bus is going to have many more dings and scratches than that of a used car. I mean, they're 45 feet long and they spend a lot more time on the road than a personally owned vehicle. So a scratch on a panel door or a messing bumper corner is not going to be that big of a deal because chances are you as a bus owner will be replacing them over and over again as you do more and more trips with it. But when it comes to body damage, you'll really want to pop the luggage bay open and look for frame damage. These are going to be caused by more severe crashes and impacts, and if you notice a bent frame, you may not want that particular coach. This one kind of goes without saying. Rust is a bad thing to have whether you're buying a coach, a car, or even a radio flyer wagon. Over time, rust will slowly eat away at the body or wherever the rust may be, costing you a lot of money down the road to repair. And if you let rust go on without taking care of it, you're kind of asking for bigger problems down the road. Also, if you're seeing rust form on the frame, chances are there's going to be rust elsewhere on the coach. Most newer model MCIs these days have fiberglass panels, so you won't necessarily find rust on the outside. However, not all manufacturers are making coaches with fiberglass panels, so in certain make and models, rust may be pretty apparent if you look close enough. As we progress into the modern age of mobile devices, cell phones, tablets, that kind of stuff, your passengers are going to want to make sure you have outlets and USB devices on your coach so that they can plug in their mobile devices while they ride to their destination. Many older model coaches prior to 2013, 2014 won't have outlets and USB ports installed on the seats. At least they don't come out of the factory that way. Over time, as motor coach companies try to keep their passengers happy, have installed these aftermarket. Definitely check to see if the previous owner of the coach you're looking at have already installed outlets and USB ports. If you should find them already installed, then you're getting away with a bonus, and chances are the dealer is not going to really add that into the pricing of things. If you have multiple options and you can't decide which bus to buy, definitely take the time to check if either one of them have outlets and USB ports installed. It may be the deciding factor between two very close candidates. The geographical location of where this used coach used to operate out of is also an important factor. Coaches that come from the West Coast, like California and Nevada and that area of the country, tend to have more life to them as they don't go through the extreme season changes and temperature changes. Their seals are going to be a lot better, the tires are going to be better. Also, the shocks aren't going to be as worn because without the snow and ice, there's not going to be as many potholes in the ground. Coaches coming from the East Coast, such as New York, New Jersey, are going to experience a lot more temperature changes. They're going to be sitting out in the sun, then the cold, then the sun year after year, and also running through a lot of salt, which causes a lot of corrosion to wires, metal frames, and suspension. So when you're looking at a used coach, find out where this coach used to operate from. A coach bus is going to have things that your car won't, such as 56 reclining seats, retractable arm and feet rests, as well as TV monitors and speakers throughout the cabin. On top of that, there will also be a DVD player that powers the monitors. Making sure that every one of these items work properly will save you a lot of time, headache, and money down the road. Anything as complex as a motor coach is going to have manufacturing defects and recalls. Even if your coach is a used one, the previous owners or the dealers should always have documentation that show that any open manufacturer recalls have been taken care of and not expired. Otherwise, a defect caused by the manufacturer that they would at one point fix for free is now your problem. And if the recall has expired, it will be cash out of your pocket after you've purchased your coach. And let's face it, after dropping a couple $100,000, you're not going to want to fix any recalls. Not only does the tires on the bus cost twice as much as a car's, but there are more of them. A standard 45-foot motor coach has 8 tires plus a spare that costs around $500 each. That's $4,000 every time you change out the tires on your coach, not counting the spare. And if your company is kept busy, you're going to be changing them out a lot quicker than you think. So if you're going to buy a used coach, make sure you're getting some decent tires along with it. You will definitely want to make sure there are no check engine fault codes on it when you buy the coach. If there are any kinds of lights on the dash, definitely ask the dealer or seller to plug in a diagnostic computer to the coach and show you the code. Even better if you know someone who is a diesel tech to come with so they can help you decipher the code, because sometimes the computer can spit out a bunch of techno babble that only a diesel tech can understand. Worst case scenario, take a picture of the code that the diagnostic computer spits out on your cell phone and text it to a friend, or Google it even. Sometimes Google can be really helpful when it comes to that kind of stuff. Whatever you do, don't buy a coach with a light on the dash without finding out what it means first. Unlike used cars, in most cases it's really easy to find out which company previously owned the coach you're looking at. If you're purchasing your used coach from a dealer, definitely find out which company it previously operated for and contact them. Most of the time you can call that bus company and ask to speak to a technician or manager. If you look carefully enough, you can usually find the number that the coach was designated by the company it used to operate for. Even if all the decals have been removed, chances are if you look close enough, you'll be able to see an outline or discoloration of where the number used to be and make out what it is. If you tell them that you are looking at their old coach, they will usually tell you why they sold it in the first place and reveal a lot of history of the vehicle. But make sure you are clear about why you're calling them before you simply ask them what's wrong with their old coach. You may come across as creepy. While you're haggling over the price, always inquire and insist on some kind of warranty with your coach purchase. If they are open to warranties, then chances are they're confident enough about the bus's condition, and also you walk out of there with a bit of a safety net. Whenever you go to look at a potential purchase of your shiny new bus, always ask the seller to either drive it over a pit or lift it up in the air so you can get a nice look at the underside of the bus. This is so important and not out of the question when it comes to the fact that you're about to drop tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. If the seller does not have a pit or a lift, ask to drive it to somewhere that does. Once you're underneath the bus, look for worn out suspension components, worn calipers, worn rotors. Listen for air leaks. Also look for signs to see if the coach had bottomed out somewhere. Bent metal is always a bad sign. A motor coach relies heavily on its HVAC system to keep its passengers warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Coach buses do not have windows that open, so when the AC fails on a hot summer day, it's basically an incubator. Coaches are also not insulated very well, and in the winter, without heat, it's basically an ice box. Definitely allow yourself a lot of time to make sure the cabin will heat up and cool down. Also, check for any codes on the HVAC control panel, as there will usually be indications of problems on the screen if something is not working right. Never buy a coach without test driving it on the interstate and city roads. Check to see if the coach pulls to the left or the right while cruising, as well as when braking. Feel out the shifting of the transmission and make sure it shifts smoothly. If there's any kind of jerking or shuddering when shifting, then you have a transmission problem, or it's a ZFAS-tronic. Definitely make sure it brakes adequately at highway speeds as well as inner city. Listen for clunking or loose metal sounds when hitting bumps on the road, as well as rattling. Some rattling may not be an issue, but make sure you identify it. Finally, when you get back to the sales lot, make sure it kneels and raises properly if it has a kneeling function. The point is, guys, you don't want to buy a used coach and have to sink another 10 to 20 grand into it after getting it home. You want something that is roadworthy and ready for your passengers when you bring it back to your shop. You also want to make sure your new secondhand coach bus can pass a FMCSA DOT inspection. That bus should be ready to make you money so that you can start paying off all that debt from starting a bus company. And again, I can't express this enough, if you have the opportunity to, bring an experienced diesel technician with you. Definitely don't hesitate, but make sure you treat him or her to lunch for being such a good friend. Oh, and if you're making a purchase from a dealer and not a private seller, make sure you get all the free swag you can, like hats, water bottles, model buses, that kind of stuff. Don't let them hold out on you from the swag. I mean, come on. Who doesn't like swag? It's free stuff. Now folks, if you follow these tips and still somehow manage to buy yourself a lemon, please don't try to sue me. We live in a time and country that is so litigation happy that it's sad I have to even say this. On top of following these tips, do your own research. I am not and do not claim to know everything there is to know about motor coaches. I just love them enough to talk about them in an empty bus and then post it on the internet. And sue the dude that sold you the lemon. If you can think of any additional steps, tips, and tricks when it comes to purchasing a used coach bus, please don't keep them to yourselves. Leave it down in the comment box below. And of course, smack that like and subscribe button as you would someone who just sold you a lemon secondhand motor coach. If you enjoyed these videos I create, you can be a supporter of my channel by becoming a patron on my Patreon page. Feel free to check it out at www.patreon.com/motorcoach. You can become a patron and support my work for $1 a month. That's $12 a year. And if you're someone who's about to go and start a bus company, you're gonna need that $12 a year, so don't worry about the Patreon thing. You can hit me back when your company takes off. And remember, if you're watching this, you are part of the Motorcoach world.